Your voice is insufferable to listen to, Jesus Christ, which I guess people don't care about since they're mostly bots. What is going on right now? Did a bunch of Ethan Klein heads just join the chat or something? You are in the Philip DeFranco Thumbo. We're getting brigaded again? By where? By what? School's out? Oh, Ethan just ended his stream. Is that what it is? Did he end his stream? Is that why so many people are coming in here to be like, dude, why are you afraid to debate Ethan? I'm not. I don't know what kind of lies he's telling over there, but I'm not afraid. I've been saying I want to do that from the jump. Who the is Ethan? Oh, never mind. This guy's just a random hater. It happens. Ethan's talking about you right now, saying he will call you live, no prerequisites. They're saying he's ready to debate now. They're being farmed again. Yeah, this is a farming operation. People are too stupid to recognize is happening. Dan can DM me right now. If Ethan actually wants to debate, I'll call him right now. I don't give a f. Hell yeah. Here, I DM'd Dan. I said, Ethan, if Ethan actually wants to talk, I'm willing and able. He's saying you won't answer the phone. I just DM'd Dan. The frogs won, bro. What the f is happening? What do you mean? Why would I say no to debating Ethan right now? There has never been a moment where I've said that I wouldn't talk to Ethan directly. That is what I've been saying. He will not do it. He doesn't want to do it. It's not real. He's just baiting. Is he even live? I'm confused. Why are people just like, are people just stupid? Are people just making shit up?
Hasan knew this before platforming him. Ian's refusal to defend Hila and Ethan because they're Israeli. The refusal to acknowledge Hila's culture and background and why she was in the IDF in the first place. I don't think he's interested in debating.
I think he's interested in crying about it. Like I said, I DM'd Dan. I'm being farmed, and so are chatters. He's saying you admitted to be an anti-Semite. I'm dying. Why did I join? Oh yeah, no, of course.
Ignoring bad empanada shooting
Hila in a
any
actual activism makes him remotely uncomfortable by even simply boycotting Coca-Cola. I have been boycotting Coca-Cola ever since it actually joined the BDS list. I haven't drank Coca-Cola or purchased Coca-Cola at all. Ian implying Ethan is greedy and money hungry. The anti-Semitism is all in his head. Hasan claiming Ethan is just pushing drama for clout and views. It's correct. That's not what I say either. He's not going to debate you is probably bait. Is this the reason why he did this? Am I getting baited by random shit in the chat? Okay, chat lied again. He didn't say let's do it right now. He said when does he want to do it? He still thinks you will dodge after AB said you're down. I mean, I literally DM'd Dan. Okay, I DM'd Dan. I don't know why he keeps saying I'm afraid. I'm gonna text Dan now, as a matter of fact. Is bait? Please go back to the news. Hold on. I texted Dan as well. I said, hey, I DM'd you on Discord, but I'm totally open to talking to Ethan.
Iraq. No, all the Iraqis, all the Jews were expelled from Iraq. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
It does matter.
Implying Anissa's heritage has suffered more than the Jews. The implication that Ethan is controlling the narrative, mass manipulating his audience, and controlling his crew hostage.
Try to stop allowing your comments to be farmed and reflect badly on this community. I jumped in a sec and he's saying you've done Holocaust denial. I have never done Holocaust denial. I don't know what the f he's talking about. He 100% wants a date at a later time because he needs to compile all the clips for his gotcha moments and he needs to actually prepare. Even then, I'm still down to do it whenever he wants to do it. I guess, yeah. I guess he's just not really interested, which is disappointing. Him compiling clips doesn't make him less wrong, Lamau. Yeah, exactly. He can compile all the clips. It's clips of me. The point of me talking to him directly to his face, whether over Discord or even in person, is that when he is clipping something out of context, I can correct the record in real time and he can't manipulate that information and his audience will have to see the truth. Because if you noticed, a lot of what's going on is just Ethan lying to his audience and his audience not even being remotely interested in learning what the truth of the matter is. So that is the reason why I want to watch the context nuke. If he wants to do that, I'll watch it with him. Or that is the reason why I want to be in an environment where he can't control the narrative. He can't just like stop the flow of information. Because every single time he has actually brought me up to his audience, he has basically lied. He's lied about the context of in person without the crew. No, the crew can be there. I don't give a shit What? Oh no, Dan is gonna pull up information. Who cares?
Hasan, I'm ready to get on a call with you without any prerequisite. You don't have to watch the video. I think it's time we talk it out. And let me say, and let me add a caveat, or not a caveat, but a prediction. I think that Hasan, being the ever coward that he is and always constantly moving the goalposts, will find a way to just...
I've literally been... That's crazy. Bro, ignore him, please, for the love of Allah. Dude, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What the do you mean? Do you think I'm not a 33-year-old man who is equipped to talk about the issues I speak of? Why do you watch me if you think that I cannot deal with this conversation? This is exactly the same way that some of you dumb were crying about me talking to Andrew Tate before I talked to Andrew Tate. Shut the up. I know how to deal with this, okay? There is a reason why it got to this point. It's because I know exactly how to deal with this. He's constantly farming you, man. He doesn't want a serious conversation. That's what the chatter means. I know, but it doesn't matter, because I think no matter how oblivious and parasocial, Ethan's fans are, in a direct conversation between me and him, it's going to be very difficult for him to dance around certain points that he has made. It's going to be very difficult to actively manipulate the truth, to be like, what did you mean by this? Especially if he pulls a clip that's out of context and I am ready to explain to him what the context is. Do you understand? So stop backseating. Ethan knows that. That's precisely why he has changed the goalposts over and over again, because ultimately the only alternative they have is this. You're a man, baby. You scream like a moron. Shut the up, terrorist. There is no point. He knows he has nothing. He can't pause me mid-sentence if he's talking to me directly. And if he can't pause me mid-sentence and cut valuable context out of that conversation, he will not be able to have that conversation, especially because so much of what he has presented so far to his dumbass audience, who actually do believe him somehow, which is shocking to me, is that I've been harassing him for a year. You know what I mean? Every single chatter that have been long-term community members, long-term subscribers, you look back at their chatting history and you notice that they stopped chatting before, but you certainly, until recently, they didn't chat, but they stopped chatting after October 7. This chatter is a great example. Okay? Moist Critical fan has been in here sporadically, 16-month subscriber, following since probably a long time ago, not March 15, 2025, but stopped following after October 7 and literally thinks I'm a terrorist now. I think it's valuable for a person like this to understand what the truth of the matter is, not just the truth of the matter on like Ethan constantly lying about how I've been harassing him or some shit, but instead the truth about Israel and the truth about what Israel has done, especially because a lot of these guys personally think that they are pro-Palestine. If they are pro-Palestine, I think that they're amenable to my position. They'll be understanding of it. Why are we even talking about him? Like, what do you think the best case scenario is here? Do you think he's going to do a 180 and start criticizing Israel publicly, or are you just hoping to get your buddy back? Like, this drama is so relevant? No, dude. It's irrelevant to you because you see it as drama. I don't see it as drama. I see it as a content creator that has like 30,000 people watching him, that is constantly spending every waking moment, every pro-Palestinian voice out there. Are you stupid? Is this impossible for you to understand? Even if Ethan doesn't say, oh, my bad, this whole thing was a misunderstanding, I'm sorry that I actively try to deplatform you while simultaneously calling you anti-Semite over and over again for the better part of this past year. It's not about him going, oh, my bad, I'm sorry, I've changed up my mind. It's about actually showing his fairly large community of potential allies the situation, the actual situation, okay? The guy who's doing canary mission style to an audience of progressives is someone that I have to deal with. I don't want to, but it's something that I have to do. How is this too difficult to understand? What makes you think he will give you any room to combat the misinfo? What do you mean? What is he gonna do? Yell over me and go la 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 and like act like he's he can't hear me? I think a lot of people will understand what that looks like if he does that. Talk to Sam Hyde. What the Ethan Klein fan, account suspended or deactivated? What is this guy doing? What are Ethan's fans doing now? Guy who is so against anti-Semitism that he's like promoting a actual neo-Nazi who's a pedophile. Okay, that's cool. Oh, is that my article? Oh, hell yeah. Anyway, Dan and the other handlers are not gonna relay the message, so you might need to call him directly. He's not gonna pick up that call. What are you, crazy? Anyway, just said Hasan is begging me to call. I have a life, bro. I have kids to take care of. Let's set it up though, but I want to talk to Sam Cedar first. Oh, so he's backing out. Like I couldn't even finish my tweet. And he is backed out already. Stop moving the goalpost, Hasan. Yeah. He literally said, I said this 2 hours ago and he waited until 4 p.m. You know what you're doing? Wait, what? I said, he's ending his stream? I said even then that I was down to do it. Dude, there's no way his audience is this stupid, right? They have to know what's going on, right? They have to know what's happening. There is 0% chance. There is 0%
Be incredibly mad about that. But when Bad Empanada does it with Hila, Hasan defends it. That's insane. You nailed it on the head there, man. This guy's a smart dude. Smart guy, man. Angels on his body.
Oh my God.
He's
literally.
You know what I mean? Angels be giving you lap dances, bro.
I said yes immediately. I don't chat much, but you are really getting baited here. There is zero good that will come out of this at this point. Out of sight, out of mind. Just the way you have addressed this mess so many times, I believe in you. I mean, he's never said that he would be directly willing to talk to me until this moment. So I think, this is a little bit different. I've been saying that I would debate him for 6 months.
I read that his chat was trying to give him bad info. I don't think he actually said anything wrong.
Denim react to
this guy's name is Stans.
Crazy shit. He's like, the dogs are everywhere. They're
this is all this is just him addressing his personal grievances. Everyone's against him. Just schedule it and dog walk him. I'll talk anytime, any place, but I don't think he wants to smoke right now. That's what it is. If he's so convinced, if he is so firmly, if he stands by his principles, he should be able to talk to me right now. It's been what? It's been 4 months. 4 months. 4 months of me. I just call him. I can't directly call him, chatter. I have to call him through Dan. Rewind for 4 minutes.
Deportation. Holds or has held illegal or improper material on his hard drive. Regularly threatens to post the names and address of his online critics as a tactic to silence them. Has sent death threats to Mr. Pavlov.
Is he that stupid that he didn't think I was?
I guess I'm asking, is he a trust? Is he just?
Is he actually so dumb that he thought that I wouldn't say yes immediately? It's right here.
So this is 1 day ago. So you see all the chat prompts sent calling her the raider of Ramallah. Well, here you go. Ethan Klein is the raider of Ramallah, terrorist kidnapper.
Hasan conveniently wants to call in at the time the show ends. Hasan cleverly skipped over the Bad Empanada's court documents. To be fair, Hasan did say yes like a couple hours ago.
You know what? Yeah,
Hasan
that's
showed
tough.
the stream and muted immediately when he saw he watched Denim's clip. No, I don't give a about the Denim's clip. Why the would I care about the Denim's clip? What is this? Hasan can vacate the premises. The crew and Ethan need to go home. They ain't on the call, dude. Wake up, Hasan. You're a coward, Hasan. Hasan wants to call right now, I think. Literally takes 1 minute of research to find out how effed up Empanada is.
All right, now let's get Hasan on the line. Yeah, right. Obviously not. What a coward, dumb bitch to challenge me now at 4 o'clock. What a loser. Bro, I mentioned you 2 hours ago.
2 long hours.
I was doing the news, bro.
Wake up, Ethan.
2 long hours? What do you mean by that?
Nothing.
I think.
Yeah, I'm in the chat.
It is time to wrap it up, though.
I think so. So here's what I want to do, though, just to summarize. Sam said he's going to get back to me at the end of this week.
Okay.
After Thursday, he said, because he's busy with family stuff. By the way, he wrote me back. He was very nice.
That's awesome.
I reached out. I have his email from. I don't know if I explained this on the air. I don't think I did. I have his email from the crowd. I did?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Did I say he was very nice?
Yeah, you said he was nice.
Not 4 months ago,
Yeah,
3
I
months
said on the
ago.
show?
Sorry.
To you.
Huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was very nice. He got back to me. He says he'll write me back on Thursday. So we're going to talk to Sam. And then if Sam is not able to convert me into the correct way of thinking, then I will go up against the final boss, the most educated, the most prolific. I said yes 2 hours ago, Ethan. Bro, you're actually in my chat? Okay.
Oh!
All right. I didn't hear about it since two. Did he really? I didn't hear about it till right now. Why is everyone just in the chat suddenly saying he wants to debate? Just like right now. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break, bro. Anyway, it's not happening right now. It's late.
Oh,
okay?
it's not happening right now.
So I'm going to talk to Sam, and then I think early next week, if I don't, metamorphose from a caterpillar into a butterfly once speaking to approved Jew Sam Cedar, then we can talk to you on Monday or on Wednesday or on Friday of next week.
Crashing out in the
pick.
chat, Hasan.
The time. Don't pick the time is during our show, not 8 a.m. Just to be clear. Yeah, and not only that, I've got whatever. I don't need to just we're going home.
I replied to
okay?
Hasan in the chat. I said, we'll set it up. I got Oblivion to play. Like, I got to get out of here.
I got a family and a crew.
He didn't reply to me in the DMs. I don't know why. I made a YouTube video in February asking you to debate me. As well,
boy.
I've said,
hey, Swastika boy, we have shit to do.
I talked to you
okay? You're not,
numerous times.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Not sure why your
Today is Wednesday, which means Thursday is for members. I got as much of the Warzone out of the way.
I made a YouTube video in February asking you to debate me as well.
I'm definitely not doing this thing on Friday because we said we're having a fun episode on Friday.
We're talking.
No, it's because he wants to talk from his hug box. That's it. That's the difference. He wants to talk from his hug box with no contest whatsoever. He can't even stand when his own crew members try to gently put it down, try to gently move him in the appropriate direction. No pushback whatsoever. That's it. He's terrified.
With all that being said, guys, have a wonderful evening, and members will see you tomorrow. Everyone else, see you on Friday. That's it for me. Bye-bye.
His show ends at 4, lol. Yeah, I didn't ask at 4, chatters. I asked before 4. I asked as soon as he said he wanted to debate me. It's because they're Epstein heads who replaced the old audience that left. I refuse to believe that people in that community would go Hasanazi or Diddy Piker. He's going to debate you on your bleach knowledge. Be warned. He's been talking about how you claim not to be a fan. I'm an adult, and I cannot believe I just typed that. No, I'm going to talk about Israel-Palestine. I'm not going to talk about bleach. A video from 2 hours ago from Hasan Abi Archives. I'm ready to debate Ethan Klein. Oh, this is just from this stream. He got super chats 2 hours ago saying you wanted the call. He can't even be good faith when trying to put this thing together. Oh boy, it's going to be a disaster. It doesn't matter. He can be as bad faith as he wants to. And even with maximum bad faith, he still knows that he can't hide from the truth. He still knows that virtually everything he has said about me is completely fabricated. Okay? Vicious smears of anti-Semitism, completely fabricated. And he also knows he can't have this conversation on the virtues of Israel-Palestine. He knows he can't have that conversation with me. He also, deep down inside, knows that I'm not anti-Semitic. He knows that very well. He is ashamed of what it will look like if we have a conversation, no matter how bad faith he tries to present the issues with. He can be as bad faith as he wants. He doesn't have to be charitable. I'm not just pearly things, okay? I don't need prep time. I don't need an entire crew to feed me information in real time while we're having this conversation. That's why I said I'm willing to talk. I'm willing to entertain it anytime, any place, even without seeing the context puke. How could I do that? How could I actually talk to Ethan if he has such a strong, convincing case? If he has such an airtight case, how would I not be able to have this conversation with him? Why is he the one who's ducking me and not the other way around? That's it. As an actual anti-Zionist Jew, it's always laughable to me when you get accused of anti-Semitism. This is the safest place against actual anti-Semitism, not anti-Zionism conflated on the entire internet. Exactly. His crew is trying to protect him from stressful things. AB admitted to knowing you wanted to talk when you initially said it. He's not going to debate him. Will Steven Crowder you? Who is he going to Steven Crowder me with? Yeah, here's from 2 hours ago. How will you get out of this one, coward? Wait, what? I'm down. What the I'm super down. This is 2 hours and 49 minutes into the broadcast. So almost exactly 2 hours ago when I said, of course I'd be down to do it. There is no way out of this. He knows what the truth is. Okay. He knows what the truth is. He knows what's going on. He knows he wants to shelter himself from potentially the backlash that he might receive when his own audience goes, oh yeah, well, I feel kind of fucked up that you just lied to us. I feel kind of fucked up that you lied to us about this person for an entire year. You could coordinate with Sam Cedar so he puts you on the call when Ethan has him on full circle. I mean, I think that's stupid. A compilation of you not being anti-Semitic? What is a compilation of me not being anti-Semitic is a crazy thing to say. It's just the stream. Literally half of his chat called you a coward for not debating. The other half said to stop because he just wants to move on and not debate you, Law. That's the other part that I don't understand. I've been saying for months that I'm down to debate him. So I don't know why his chat is like, oh, you're a coward. You don't want to debate him. I'm like, no, I do. And then they go, okay, well, you just called in too late. All the H3 fans that could have actually been persuaded have left in the ensuing 2 years. I love you, but this is naive. His audience is too far gone. Please don't go into the mentality that his audience will have a change of heart. It won't happen. They're garbage. I don't care. I'm calling that he's still not going to talk to you. He's going to talk to Sam and then make up some reason why he no longer needs to talk to you. Most likely. But it is mind-boggling. It's just like a basic truth. The idea that like I want to talk to Ethan is a basic truth. Have you seen the XQC tweet, dude? Yes, dude. Yes, I have. Why do you keep posting if I've seen the XQC tweet? Yeah, I did. He posted. Anyway, please put up a trap prediction about he dodges on Monday. I'll bet on my channel points the pussy will dodge again. I think in his head, he feels that after speaking to Sam Cedar, Sam will see that you are anti-Semitic and he will get Sam to debate you once that is done. Okay. Yeah, Sam is a very nice person, but he's not stupid. He's incredibly knowledgeable on not only the basic facts of the matter, but he's also incredibly knowledgeable on Hasbara and the types of propaganda that people who are pro-Israel present. My suspicion is that the conversation that he has with Sam Cedar will be filled to the brim with concessions that he makes to Sam in an effort to make it seem as though he's like, oh, well, I said, West Bank settlers are actually targets, but they're calling my wife a baby killer, things of that nature. It's like, oh, well, we're actually pro-Palestine, but every single person is attacking us unjustifiably. And Sam doesn't know the details of all of the things that Ethan has said and done. So it's just going to be a face-saving operation. Yeah. The reason why I initially said he should talk to Sam is because, he claims to agree with everything that Sam Cedar says. And if that's the case, why isn't Sam Cedar constantly talking about the anti-Semitism coming from the pro-Palestinian accounts? Why is Sam Cedar actually friends with the arch anti-Semite? Why have we had multiple conversations? He's just constantly trying to run away from the truth, but he's got the content demon. He's got the content demon in his brain, so he just knows that this will actually gain attention for him, so he can't help himself. And I think that's what it is. This shit is so high school. I'd be surprised if you idiots weren't collabing at this point. Yes, dude, the dumbest guy on the planet looks at the situation of the Anti-Defamation League actively trying to take down and deplatform a pro-Palestinian voice, including but not limited to getting a Democratic Party congressperson to demand my deplatforming using the congressional letterhead 5 days before a general election, and says this is just high school drama. At a certain point, you have to realize you're trying to minimize it because on Ethan's side, it does come across like high school drama because he doesn't care about the politics of it all. It's just content and drama for him and his dumb audience. It's not drama. We're talking about people's livelihoods being actively ruined by a pro-Israel mouthpiece who has used his platform to constantly go after anyone and everyone, making a fool of himself in the process. What do you mean? It's just high school drama, Lamau? Yeah, if you're stupid and watching from afar, yeah, it looks like high school drama. If you're watching it from Ethan's side, it looks like high school drama. Do you think Ethan will have a redemption arc? At this stage, this is a stupid question to ask. He will never have a redemption arc until he apologizes for all of the things that he has done in the past year and try to make up for it. And even then, plenty of people are not going to be on his side. And he is not the bigger man in this process. He's not going to be humble enough and demonstrate the humility necessary to say, yeah, this past year of active deplatforming initiatives that I engaged in against all pro-Palestinian content creators, demanding that they get fired over and over again, all of that was wrong. And if he were to say all of that was wrong and turn around and try to offer restitution, even then there's going to be plenty of people who say, F you. There's plenty of people who are going to be vicious to him. You know, the CC vid was even an intervention at the end. People still complimented him and wished him well. It doesn't matter. He's lost in the sauce. All right, let's get back to the news. Full charitable long-term fan of yours. It's just frustrating that this dude takes away attention from like news that's really important, and it's annoying. It's a daily occurrence, but I get why it's covered. I think he's trying to set it up to pretend like he gets it now. He needs to save his pod, but doesn't want to admit being a bad person. Hasan, you're ignoring the insane Destiny fans that are fueling this loser, and Dan are fueling Ethan's mania, and Ethan's having a full mental break fueled by Destiny fans. It's sad, but it is what it is. I know, but it doesn't matter, because to the outsiders that are just signing in, they see their favorite content creator being victimized by vicious anti-Semites online, and that is completely untrue. It's also causing dumb that you need to have on your side if you actually want to build a coalition to literally go, I don't really care about any of this stuff. I think everyone's been mean to my favorite content creator, so, you know, the pro-Palestinian cause is actually silly. Like, it's ridiculous, and I know it sounds stupid, and you might say to yourself, well, f those people. And I understand why your immediate reaction is f those people, because f those people, but you need those people. You need everyone. You need as many people as you can. You need as many people to fight alongside you at a time when the American government is literally blackbagging people for the crime of saying mean things about Israel. Okay? You need people on the streets. So I'm not going to cast aside fans that are too stupid to understand the truth. I was an H3 watcher before I watched your stream. The pro-Palestinian crowd has left the H3 viewership long ago. We are not there anymore. Your chat thinks that this is drama too. I don't understand why they don't care that at least a few people from E's audience could realize how he's been lying to them and negatively affecting their perspective. If you debate him, that's valuable. I think so too, yes. I will go to any space I have to and convince anyone I can. You were mentioning on Philip DeFranco that came out an hour ago. What did he say? It's not just drama.
Ethan Klein needs to stop talking about Palestine, because this man cannot take even the mildest of criticisms. He cannot reflect on any of the things that he has actually said. He wishes to live within a world in which neither he nor Hila have ever done anything wrong, that they are both actually some of the most pro-Palestinian content creators out there. And I had initially written out a whole script talking about Ethan Klein's first podcast episode reacting to iDubbbz's Content Cop, because it was filled with many hilarious gems, such as when Ethan called Israel an inspiring example of coexistence. But there was one part of his second podcast episode reacting to iDubbbz's video which really leapt out to me, and it has derailed what I wanted to say really, because in it Ethan compares the experience of his wife Hila to that of Anissa, iDubbbz's wife, a Lebanese person.
The most important impact will be the non-H3, non-Hasan viewers who watch this as drama and are totally ignorant as to the base of this conflict. This is an opportunity to set a foundation in their minds towards the status of Israel's genocide, because sadly this kind of content gets a lot of fresh eyes. Exactly. There's a reason why a lot of these content creators like Chris Kunzler or even Bad Empanada to a certain degree constantly talk about this issue, or Noah Samson, talk about this issue from the framework of drama, and then they slam in as much information as possible in the process. It's like drama baiting to educate. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, need that. They need the drama. They cannot lock in on the issues on the basis of the issues alone. My most charitable interpretation is that the content cop got through to him, not because of the messaging, but because of the viewership ratio, and he's going to use Sam and then you to quietly back out of talking about Israel-Palestine by saying he talked it out and hopefully pivot back to being a comedy slop tuber. Doubtful. I hope. But yeah, make no mistake, okay? This is not... I hope. Make no mistake, though. This isn't drama. It's Hasbara, okay?
Making it out as if Lebanon could in any way be portrayed as an aggressor who bears the same responsibility as Israel.
Part of the Lebanese, they've received a lot of oppression and attacks from the IDF. So Anissa is very well
And
familiar.
sir, do you happen to know of any violence perhaps coming towards Israel, where Ela grew up? Perhaps from Lebanon, Hezbollah, perhaps? Does that ring a bell to you, you dumb, ignorant? How dare you?
Wow. It's so up. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Do you know how damaging it was to live in Warsaw as a German during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising? Do you know how damaging it was to innocent Germans who were part of the German military at a certain point? Do you know how scary it was to experience the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising? It's really up. Yeah. It's really up that Hezbollah violently retook southern Lebanon, which was rightful Israel land.
You attempt to lecture me on this conflict. You just learned about this like 2 weeks ago, clearly, and you're just deferring to Hasan as an expert. It's mind-bendingly dumb. Bro, please call in and debate me on Israel-Palestine. Let's see who knows more about the conflict.
Now, I really hate how smarmy Ethan is in this clip. He makes out that he's some kind of expert on Israel and Palestine, when I, along with many other content creators, have exposed his totally lacking knowledge in this. And this is really a constant theme throughout both his podcast episodes, because he goes on and on about how proud he is of the content nuke on Hasan, how well sourced it is.
Bro, he loves that out of context thing. Like, that video was so well sourced. The full context to everything.
But Ethan, in the first episode, literally pulled a fake quote.
Thinks Nasrallah is based, the guy who says we will hunt down the Jews wherever it's better that the Jews all go to Israel so that we don't have to hunt them down worldwide.
From that content nuke attributed to Syed Hassan Nasrallah that Ethan ripped from Wikipedia and then blackbarred so you couldn't see that even the Wikipedia article noted that the quote was most likely fake. Now, as much as Ethan loves to talk about Middle Eastern Jewish people and how they came to Israel, what I will say is Israel is undeniably a foreign implant in the Middle East. I mean, one of their key founders, Theodor Herzl, literally said of Zionism, "We should there form a portion of a rampart of Europe against Asia, an outpost of civilization as opposed to barbarism." And this is exactly what the Zionists saw themselves as doing. They practiced colonization in another people's land, and they saw themselves as redeeming it, doing away with the years that it had been in the hands of the useless and evil Palestinians. But ever since its inception, Israel has spent its time trying to alter the politics of the Middle East. And here, Ethan, I will note a difference between you and I.
Do you guys understand why? Chris does a really good job with this as well, but do you understand why I end up covering some of the statements that Ethan has made on this broadcast? A lot of you go, oh, this is just petty drama. And to the outsider, they go, oh, it's petty drama. In between the actual petty drama, he slams in about Israel that is completely ahistorical. Sometimes it is literally revisionist, it's genocide revisionist nonsense. He's doing propaganda. He might be too stupid to realize he's doing propaganda. He might think this is the truth. Okay? When Ethan is talking about out of his ass that he does not know, that he is just like oblivious to, that he's just repeating because he heard it from someone else, he actually is lying to his audience about the truth. He is slowly but surely, in the most nefarious way, getting outside apolitical people to assume a very different worldview than the one that exists. This is what's damaging.
And also people who support you, because unlike you, I don't really draw that much from Wikipedia, unless I just want a quick source and I know that I have others to back it up, that is. So I will quote to you From 1949, The First Israelis, by Israeli historian Tom Segev. Now, Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, said, "The Muslim rule in Lebanon is artificial and easily undermined. A Christian state ought to be set up, whose southern border would be the Litani River. Then we'll form an alliance with it." Now, this is basically Israel's first Prime Minister talking about demographically altering the country of Lebanon, getting rid of the Muslim population, and setting up a majority Christian state simply because it would be friendly with Israel. And Israel actually went on to do this. They sowed chaos in the country of Lebanon. People now like to blame the Palestinians, but the Israelis were funding a group called the Phalangists, whose founder, Pierre Gemayel, went to the Berlin Olympics in 1936 and was really inspired by what he saw and decided to go and establish himself a group called the Phalangists, inspired by the Nazi ideology. And these people were a particularly heinous group, and we'll get onto them in full later. But what I first want to talk about is how Israel actually tried to implement this. Now, you could have the example of 1982, where Israel attempted to break the back of Palestinian nationalism by targeting the Palestine Liberation Organization. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin made the claim, "Oh, these evil terrorists want to do a second Holocaust to us." In fact, on the eve of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, he literally said that there would be another Treblinka if Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Liberation Organization weren't destroyed, claiming that, they were evil terrorists who must be dealt with. And the justification, by the way, for invading Lebanon was the assassination of an Israeli diplomat, Shlomo Argov, who was targeted whilst in London, and although he did survive, he never really got out of bed again and he went on to die. But this guy wasn't even targeted by the PLO. He was targeted by a member of Abu Nidal, an anti-PLO organization. And so Israel, for this, went and invaded Lebanon. They went to destroy the PLO and went to try and set up a state where the Christian Maronites, particularly the Phalangists, would rule over the country. And in order to do this, Israel enacted a heinous bombing campaign that does not come close to anything that any Lebanese government...
You know this as the Dahia Doctrine, okay? Which has been implemented, which... Initially, Israel got the technique from the United States of America, which looked at the bombing of Dresden and said, we can go way harder, and applied that principle of making the enemy incur a penalty through civilian infrastructure by bombing the living shit out of every standing structure in North Korea. Israel has been doing that in every war that it is ever engaged in
or militant group have ever done to Israelis. On one singular day of bombing, on August the 12th, 1982, Israel killed 500 civilians in a singular day of bombing of Beirut. And this reached the point where Ronald Reagan, a staunchly pro-Israel Republican president, called Menachem Begin and told him that the symbol of his war was becoming a 7-month-old baby with its arms blown off. And he also told Begin that he was committing a Holocaust in Lebanon because of how atrocious the things that he was doing to the Lebanese people were. And this was all really horrifying, but eventually Israel managed to get the PLO out of the country. But this wasn't good enough for Israel. Israel's leadership...
If you want to actually call us Osborne and bluffs, you need to talk about what Israel currently does. He will dismiss the history. What the f*** are you talking about? He literally says, Hezbollah attacked Israel unprompted. If you don't talk about the inception of Hezbollah, why it came about, then you can't have this conversation. Of course, this is important. You can't just dismiss it. It's like saying, oh, you can't talk about anything before October 7. You have to only talk about after October 7. What do you mean? Israel's entire existence from the start, from its inception, even before its inception, has been to terrorize the indigenous population within its reach.
Was very obsessed with the idea that some of the Palestinian Liberation Organization fighters remained within Lebanon, which really wasn't true. I mean, there are other accounts from senior Israeli officials that say the exact opposite, that there were maybe a few people left, but it wasn't major. But for Ariel Sharon, Israel's Minister of Defense, well, this just wasn't acceptable. And he told Morris Draper, an American diplomat, when he told him that he didn't want to see people being killed by the Lebanese in camps, we will kill them. They will not be left there. You are not going to save them. You are not going to save these groups of international terrorism. If you don't want the Lebanese to kill them, we will kill them. And even though one of the conditions for PLO militants leaving Lebanon had been that Palestinian civilians would have been protected, Israel didn't abide by this, and those phalangists that I mentioned earlier, well, their leader, Gemayel, was assassinated, and of course the PLO were blamed, even though it wasn't them. And so Israel and Ariel Sharon let the phalangists go into the Sabra and Shatila refugee camps and perpetrate mass rape, mass torture, summary executions, mutilation of bodies, alleged stories where the fetus was cut out of a pregnant woman's belly and left on the floor, people stabbed, babies stabbed. I mean, the scale of it was far bigger than October the 7th. Perhaps up to 3,000 or 3,500 people were.
Yeah, and the way that Israel designed this to create plausible deniability over their involvement wasn't to directly go in and participate in the slaughter, but instead shut off with the IDF every entry point into the camp. Literally blocking every entry point into the camp, every exit point into the camp with their vehicles and with their weapons, and throwing up flares in the air so the visibility is there for the Phalangist forces, and allow them to slaughter every single Palestinian they could get their, and Lebanese person they can get their hands on. It was barbaric. This is the environment in which there was a Lebanese militancy that was formed.
Killed inside these camps. And you may be saying, well, Israel didn't do it, that's okay. Well, they fired flares in the air so the phalangists could do it. They knew what the phalangists were doing. They were the ones who had trained the phalangists, armed them. They controlled the area, let them go in. In fact, a Norwegian who was in the area at the time said that the IOF had full view of a bulldozer digging a mass grave. And in fact, this wasn't even the first time that the phalangists had been allowed to do this. In Tel al-Zata, 1,500 Palestinian and Lebanese civilians were massacred. And often people like to claim that, you know, Israel's gone down this dark path. Maybe they highlight how the Likud...
Wait, I'm lost. Who are the Phalangists? Phalangists are a Maronite Christian sect in Lebanon that developed a neo-Nazi paramilitary and engaged in atrocious acts of barbarism against the Lebanese Shia and Palestinian refugee population in Sabra and Shatila. You might have heard about Sabra and Shatila from the Sabra and Shatila massacre. They did this with direct coordination with the Israeli forces. They're not Christians, they're Christian Nazis, Christian neo-Nazis, okay? It's the difference between your parents that say they're Christian versus, I don't know, the Westboro Baptist Church or the Klan also claiming to be Christian. Yeah, Franco is what they, as far as I understand, what they get their influence from. Like actual fascists.
Party in particular has turned Israel into this horrible place. But the Labour Party in Israel in the 1970s had no problem with the Tel al-Zata massacre. In fact, this is what Likud members were saying to members of the Labour Party in the 1980s in the wake of Sabra and Shatila. Ariel Sharon would go on to say, "We did not criticize you for supporting..."
Bro, I went to a Jewish day school for like 8 years of my life and I didn't learn about Sabra and Shatila until your stream like a year ago. Yeah, of course. Why would they teach that? It would make Israel look horrible.
The Christians. I am talking about a moral aspect. You kept on supporting the Christians even after the Tel al-Zata massacre. The information about...
I'm a Maronite. The Phalange are neo-Francoists who adopted neo-Nazi ethnic policy. My whole family are ashamed to have had even one member of my family who were with them. Mavdli al-Phalange.
About the massacre and its cruelty was in everyone's possession. Sharon told member of the Knesset Yitzhak Rabin, "We had already known what they had done with the weapons we supplied."
Yeah, Israel's greatest fear is people learning the truth. Like that's it. That's why they so effectively try to tamper it. That's why instead of addressing this and like trying to make justifications for these horrifying atrocities, they will turn around and just go ban this person, deplatform this person for saying historical truths about Israel's involvement. That is the only way that you can approach the subject matter, because if people learn about it, I mean, think about it this way. Think about it this way. Post October 7, it became undeniable. Israel's cruelty became undeniable because they were doing a live streamed Holocaust. Think about people's attitudes and how they shifted over the course of 1 year. It's not like they didn't try to stop the truth from coming out. They executed as many journalists as they possibly could. They executed as many journalists as they possibly could. They shut off the internet in certain instances. And yet the truth still came out. That's what they don't want.
And the forces we helped them build. However, we did not criticize you. And this is how both political parties in Israel dealt with massacres of Palestinian and Lebanese civilians that eclipse anything on the scale of October the 7th. And you know, inside Israel proper, there was actually a very big reaction to what had happened in Sabra and Shatila. There was a march with 400,000 people, a rather large percentage of the Israeli adult population. And as a result, Menachem Begin and Ariel Sharon stepped down from their positions after the Israeli Kahan Commission found that they were both complicit in Sabra and Shatila. But the Israelis still went on to elect Ariel Sharon as their prime minister in 2002, and he oversaw more slaughter of Palestinians, more destruction of their lives and townships. And yet you sit here and you cannot understand why someone might say, well, actually, yeah, a Lebanese person has a much different experience to that of an Israeli. Israelis have sat pretty. Yes, they have experienced violence and civilians being killed, but nothing on the scale of what Israel has done to Lebanon. And Israel did this not in pursuit of terrorists, but to alter the policy.
Here's another great example, by the way, of how Israel operates. New, after hundreds of Yale students protested in advance of Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is a psychopathic Nazi settler terrorist who demanded the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, okay, who had photos of one of the most prominent Israeli terrorists of all time in his living room, a Kahanist. He came to Yale. Yale now has stripped the school Students for Justice for Palestine chapter of its official status as an official student group. Yes, Ben-Gvir is a Kahanist who celebrated the Jewish terrorist mass shooter. Yeah. Like, imagine having a photo of Dylan Roof in your living room, okay? And then, after being elected into office, you reluctantly have to take it down in order, and you say, when you're taking down the photo of Dylan Roof, you say, oh, I'm not doing this because of my convictions. I'm doing this because I want people to shut the up about it, okay? A framed photo of Dylan Roof. Oh, Itamar Ben-Gvir was not allowed to serve in the IDF because of how extremist he was. Can you understand? The Israeli occupying force, which is a force for terror in and of itself, said, you're too rabid for us. And now that guy's being welcomed to Yale at a time when the administration is literally going after every goddamn university for allowing this kind of stuff to happen, right, on their campuses, understandably. And what is Yale doing? Even before the administration demands that this group is disbarred, Yale has already taken that position already, saying that it's good that a convicted terrorist is on our campus. It's like inviting one of Adolf Hitler's little generals onto college campus and having like the Jewish American movement that's protesting against it disbarred. Yeah, here's another wonderful thing that Itamar Ben-Gvir did. Ben-Gvir handed out thousands of guns to Israeli citizens. Then the murders began. It didn't begin. It exploded. It increased. It's insane. I feel like I'm losing my mind when we talk about this issue where it's like the morality is so clear.
Politics of the region to set up a state there that was sympathetic to them, that might normalize relations with them. And you sit there and act as if Lebanon are the aggressors. It is frankly disgusting. It is like how you cannot understand how the Do Not Worry podcast was not upset at all about Israelis fleeing a rocket attack and a siren. The reason that people from the region think like this is well documented in an article by Norman Finkelstein in the early 1990s about Palestinian reactions to Saddam Hussein firing Scud missiles at Israel. And when he asked them why did they whoop and cheer at the prospect of Israeli civilians being targeted. All of them said it wasn't really actually about civilians being killed. It was Israelis feeling like they did for once. Feeling like they did when their homes were bombed and destroyed. Experiencing the fear and terror of Israeli raids and oppression. For that one...
And then, of course, people will say, well, that's kind of mean, don't you think? Which is why we need to do more October 7s to the Palestinians and all the Arabs in the region. Stoogeless, thank you for the 50 bones.
Moment, Israelis had to experience what every single Lebanese person has experienced through bouts of mass slaughter. And even then, just hearing sirens and getting to hide in your bunker doesn't compare to what Israel has done to the Lebanese people. And this is why it just irks me so much that Ethan sits there and talks about history, because anyone with any knowledge of history should be able to say, well, actually, what the IOF have done to Lebanese people far eclipses what has ever been done to Israeli civilians, and any politics must therefore centre the people of Lebanon, the people of Palestine, rather than the feelings of Israeli people. And Ethan...
It's insane. But of course, because Israel is our ally, Israel is has a close association with America, Israel is the favored client state, and also has a ton of propaganda initiatives in the West, by way of people that have dual citizenship, by way of people that have financial ties to the state of Israel and its continuation, and sometimes direct financial ties to the destructive nature of Israel's apartheid state, that you never hear about this. You never hear about this from the perspective of the victims themselves. And the people that do actually desperately try to use their privilege, like Chris here being a white British guy with a Middle Eastern Studies master's and continuing on to get a PhD, or someone like myself who has a platform of prominence. Like, when we use our platform and our privilege, people desperately try to undermine that by either making up to be like, don't listen to this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, please don't listen to this guy, or by directly demanding the deplatforming of people like myself.
If you want to see the distinction that you make between us and them, which was the center of my previous video, you are so quick to explain, well, Israelis have difficult choices to make. All these crazy things happen there. People want to defend their homeland. And, oh, what was Israel supposed to do after October the 7th? But what were Lebanese people and Palestinians supposed to do after Sabra and Shatila? Or all those other...
Yeah, in case you were wondering, as I was, who invited Ben Gvir to Yale? A Jewish society run by a real estate magnate, co-founded by Cory Booker and Rabbi Shmuley. Shocking.
The mass bouts of slaughter. They never got...
Is it different Rabbi Shmuley? Wait, really? It's not Boteach? Shabtai, the group hosting Ben Gvir, is run by real estate magnate Shmuley Hecht and is not officially affiliated with Yale. Ben Gvir, one of the most far-right... Wait... And Rabbi Shmuley Hecht. Oh, yeah, this is not the Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi Shmuley this is a different Rabbi Shmuley. There's two of them. This is not the dildo salesman. Yeah, it's not Shmuley Boteach. It's a different Rabbi Shmuley. There's a TrueAnon episode about the three Shmuleys.
Revenge. They never got anything in return. They set up armed groups.
Cory Booker is also homies with the Rabbi Shmuley, though. That's probably why he made that mistake.
As violent and irrational monsters. But Israelis, well, you know, it's understandable. And it's a fantasy to think that Israel may have to behave differently, even though they are the ones who have undeniably perpetrated the worst crimes against innocent civilians. And this is just where one of my key problems with Ethan lies. He just always centers Israeli feelings. He always goes on and on about anti-Semitism, which of course is most definitely a real thing that Jewish people experience. But Ethan, you sit pretty in Los Angeles right now. You are a multi-millionaire living in a mansion, and you are talking about your feelings. You highlight From the River to the Sea, and Gila chimes in and says, well, why don't they use a different slogan?
Talking about all Palestinian lands. Once again, that's funny because it's exactly related to what he accuses me of spreading Israeli propaganda.
You know what's funny about this dude? This dude from Lebanon who was like, this dude from Lebanon said, given what Israel has done to us, it would be justifiable to do 1 million October 7th to Israel. And it would be fine to do 1 million October 7th to Israel, which I don't agree with. Okay. I think that's still a incredibly violent statement to make. But Ethan, by definition, has justified that over and over again because Israel has done 1 million October 7s to the Palestinian population and even to the Lebanese population, as a matter of fact, and to, in certain instances, the Syrian population, and he defends it. But because you get to say whatever the you want about Israel and no one goes, what do you mean? They're doing a genocide. He can say all of that without ever fearing deplatforming or anything like that.
Yeah. My point is when Israelis hear from the ocean to the sea, they hear all of Israel. And guess what? That's what the guy from Hamas is saying on the screen of the clip you showed.
I don't understand. If a movement is for peace between two people and one people is telling you they're not comfortable with the statement, shouldn't we change the statement to something that both...
That's insane. And it's ironic because I had this conversation long before Ethan is having this conversation with Hila, where in the month of October in 2023, Ethan and I had this conversation where I described to him, this is like listening to the demands made by racist white guys who are saying, oh, you're saying Black Lives Matter, but that to me means you want to kill white people. So you can't say Black Lives Matter. That was an attempt by the All Lives Matter crowd. This is exactly the same. This is an analog. What is the alternative? From the sea all the way to the Gaza envelope where there's a border wall and then also skipping over the Israeli proper, skipping over the green line all the way to the other side of the border wall firmly placed upon the West Bank to the river. Like, is that what people should be saying? Like, what a ridiculous statement. That's where the Palestinians are, between the river and the sea.
People can get behind.
No,
if
because
we are
they'll
for
say,
peace.
Right. Well, people will say that Israel's the aggressor, so they shouldn't have to adjust anything.
Yeah, but that's like
it's
watered
true.
down.
Is Israel not the aggressor? It is.
An American version of what's happening there.
Once again, the people who do nothing wrong when it comes to Palestine can't admit that Israel is an aggressor. Both of them think that Israel occupies Palestinian land illegally, settles it, perpetrates genocide and all of these things, but they don't see these as aggressive acts which provoke retaliations against Israel. Instead, that's a watered down American understanding of Palestine. But ultimately, the call from the river to the sea is a demand for the liberation of all of historic Palestine, not just the occupied territories. Ethan and Hila seem to have absolutely no problem with the 1948 Nakba, the fact that 750,000 Palestinians were expelled, many of them were sent on death marches, and since they have never been allowed to return. Many people still languish in refugee camps in places like Jordan, Syria and Lebanon, not being allowed to return to their homes. The people of Gaza, some of them can literally see where their homes and lands once were, but they're now occupied by Israelis. So the call from the river to the sea is not problematic. Rather, it is a demand for full Palestinian liberation. People are being burnt alive right now, en masse in Palestine. Children by the dozen. Homes being collapsed on entire families. People are being tortured in Israeli jails to death, including minors. And yet you want to talk about your feelings and whether a slogan is offensive to Israeli people. I am sorry, but Israelis en masse are not opposing what is happening in the Gaza Strip. There's been no mass dissent. It's only really come recently when they're worried about the fate of Israeli hostages. There has been no mass disobedience over the last 18 months in Israel. There has been no major reaction against what Israel is doing. It's only really centered on their complaints around Netanyahu and the threats to Israel's faux democracy, and Netanyahu going full genocidal and making it obvious to the rest of the world what Israel always was. In fact, in that article by Norman Finkelstein, which I mentioned earlier, there is a fantastic quote from Mattiyahu Peled, who was a founding member of the Progressive List for Peace, talking about the Israeli peace movement, Peace Now, and what he said was that it's one of the worst things that ever happened to us. Nice people in Israel who feel unhappy with the situation but are not prepared to do anything about it. They get together twice or 3 times a year, and as the saying goes here, they give their conscience to the laundry. They get it back cleaned up and they go back home happy and satisfied. There is nothing more to it than that. They stand at a demonstration, they shout a few slogans, they go home satisfied that they have done the job, but they are not prepared to shake the system. So this is a substitute for real action. And I must remind you that Ethan and Hila have openly stated their opposition to people in Israel actually taking direct action against the Israeli occupation and the genocide in Gaza. Ethan said that it was a necessity to serve in the IOF.
Important to serve like everybody else in the country. I mean, it's a very selfish move to decide, okay, I'm not going to do it, but everybody else will.
Like Israel as a place, the mentality of growing up there, like everybody feels an obligation to protect, to serve, to nurture this place that feels like the only place in the world where they can live and be Jewish and not be like discriminated against.
I mean, when you're growing up with constant terror attacks, the army is a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if people think that's a controversial statement. That is the reality of Israel.
It's
and so for one person to decide, I'm not going to do it, is a very selfish decision, and it helps nothing with your career afterwards. You finish it, then you start your,
you don't even need
actual
to defend
life.
yourself. It's just normal.
They both said that it was a
By the way, remember when I told you that they would inevitably move on to American citizens? They have. Breaking. Officials confirm raids in multiple cities. Tahrir Coalition says FBI agents, Michigan State Police, and local officers targeted pro-Palestine organizers. So, Ethan, your wishes are becoming a reality. Maybe they'll invade my house too one day, you know? It's happening already. Your every wish that you had will be fulfilled by this administration. Don't worry. FBI raids follow string of pro-Palestinian incidents around Ann Arbor. In Ypsilanti and Canton on Wednesday, this morning, the FBI raided a bunch of people's houses. Officials did not confirm why search warrants were executed at multiple homes. The Tahrir Coalition, a pro-Palestinian advocacy group, alleged law enforcement is targeting protesters who support Palestine amid the war in Gaza. It's the latest in a string of local incidents, including pro-Palestinian protests on the University of Michigan campus, vandalism, arrests, lawsuits, and actions by elected officials since the war between Israel and Hamas broke out in October 2023. These were the people, I think, that are associated with Dana Nessel's initial targeting, the Attorney General of the state of Michigan's initial targeting. If you recall, you might recall the drama at least. Dana Nessel smeared Rashida Tlaib after Rashida Tlaib asked, why is this happening? Why are you actually, as a Democrat in a Democratic state, targeting? Hey, don't say this administration like you didn't say mad negative things about Harris. Hey, you absolute moron. You dumb idiot. I'm currently in the process of explaining to you how the previous administration's actions have allowed the Trump administration to continue its violent agenda. Are you so dense? Do you not understand that the situation that I'm talking about quite literally happened under the watchful eye of the Biden administration? Is there a particular reason why you think I might have talked about Deborah Lipstadt, famous Holocaust scholar Deborah Lipstadt, who was Biden's anti-Semitism envoy, who got interviewed by Isaac Chodener, and in that interview revealed that she actually likes what the Trump administration is doing? That perhaps will help you develop a better understanding of what the previous Democratic Party administration was interested in doing in terms of creating a chilling effect on speech as long as it pertained to speech against the state of Israel. The Democratic Party set the stage so that the Trump administration could capitalize on it. If you don't understand how these things go hand in hand, well, you're unfortunately too stupid to understand anything. Don't say this administration like you didn't say mad negative things about Harris. Ironically enough, if the Kamala Harris campaign had listened to at least some of my warnings, why should they? I'm a dumb Twitch streamer. I have no motion. But if they had, they might have actually won the election if they had decoupled from Biden early on, if they actually made strong stances about defending free speech and defending the freedom of expression of student activists who are criticizing the state of Israel. As a matter of fact, if they actually went alongside the student activists and personally said mean things about the state of Israel, they would have had a better shot at winning the election. And that's just one aspect where they were completely blindsided, seemingly. There's a million other things I can talk about. My criticisms about Kamala Harris running around with Liz Cheney, a person with zero constituency. My criticisms about Kamala Harris refusing to recognize the overall economic anxiety and anger that the Americans actually... Hey, yo, did you just say the N-word? What? Did you just say the N-word? No. Are you guys hallucinating now? Is that what you want? Do you want me to say that so that like you can feel better about yourself so you can get a clip out or something? What? Take your medicine, dude. You called me an idiot and blab a bunch of words. They were realistically two options, and you sat on the fence to talk down about everything and everyone. Oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't blab a bunch of words. I explained to you the actual reasons as to why Kamala Harris lost, and it's not because I was chirping about Kamala Harris. I could have said Kamala Harris is the best candidate that has ever existed. I could have lied to my audience over and over again every single day of the week. That would not have changed the dynamic. Okay? That would not have changed the dynamic even a little bit, because I cannot outflank the Democratic Party. I cannot outflank the hundreds of millions of dollars that they spent on ad spend to put forward their ass campaign. That's why they lost. Oh my God. Having said that, it's not like the reality of the matter is this, okay? Kamala Harris wanted children to be murdered in the live streamed Holocaust so bad that they threw away the election and allowed an incompetent fascist to win for the second time. Okay? So take it up with them. Take it up with the Democratic Party for not doing what was necessary at the time. Don't yell at some Twitch streamers who recognized the writing on the wall and were correct. It is wild that right now, 3 months in to this administration, you still have the audacity to turn around and say, hey, the one guy that was ringing the alarm bells and was literally right, I'm actually going to get mad at that guy. It's kind of funny because you are alone in this. Like the New York Times and CNN and NBC and all these other outlets come to me for this reason. They come to me and interview me because they're like, oh, what did you see that we didn't see? There's a reason why they're doing that analysis, and you're still in here trying to chirp. Jesus Christ. You are so goddamn alone in this process because you're the Deborahs and the Barbaras, okay? The older Democratic Party is demanding action from the Democrats. The older base of the Democratic Party is demanding action from their elected representatives. They're not the ones who are still chirping. There's nothing funnier to me than coming into the Twitch stream of a guy and being like, you're the reason why Kamala Harris lost. Really? You think I have more prominence than Taylor Swift and Beyonce combined? Babe, fence sitting in this election got Trump won. You're the one yelling, Lamau, you just never take accountability for anything. You don't want me to take accountability. You want me to entertain your delusions. And you are unfortunately too stupid to make that distinction. I am now officially banning you because you are too stupid to have a conversation with. I'm sorry. Sometimes we got to keep moving, especially because we're talking about the Trump administration blackbagging people, targets that were set by Dana Nessel under the previous administration. But you're so dumb that you can't even recognize that. Babe, fence sitting. All those years ago, I really didn't understand the hatred for libs. It gets more and more clear by the day. I mean, that person is not even a liberal. Like most MSNBC watching neoliberal wine moms are far more radical than that idiot, okay? She's coming in here talking about fence sitting, where Kamala Harris was fence sitting a genocide. And it's not even just that. There were other areas of improvement that I also actively criticized the Kamala Harris campaign on, and I was right. Whether it be the way that the Democrats across the board under the Biden administration dealt with immigration with no counter messaging, no action taken in the opposite direction to show that America is a nation of immigrants, as a matter of fact, and immigrants are not a national security threat. Instead, wholesale adoption of the right-wing framing that immigrants are a national security threat with no evidence whatsoever, and the only evidence suggesting the opposite of what the Republicans were saying over and over again. It was insane. God damn. I can't believe people still try to relitigate this shit. It's like, you are so alone. You are so alone. Your parents don't even agree with you on this. They're out there in the streets doing the hands off my government protests, and you're still in here chirping in a Twitch chat. You goddamn loser. You're not even getting paid by the Democratic Party. Where are your pay stubs? Show me your pay stubs. Do you get paid by the DNC? Then if not, why the are you defending their ineptitude? Check this guy's logs. Terrorist plays. FBI should investigate your ties to Islam. Hasan, shut the up, you Muslim dog. Most of this is just straightforward Islamophobia. God damn. The FBI should investigate your ties to Islam. Okay, man.
Selfish thing to not do Israeli national service. And this is where the problem lies. Ethan loves to highlight, oh, there's loads of peaceful Israelis, but when they actually take an action, he's openly disagreed with the small handful of young people like Tal Mitnick who take action, a minimal action, I must remind you, something which Tal even said to me himself. The organization Mesavrot is small, but it is growing inside Israel. There are more and more people who don't want to be complicit in Israel's occupation, their genocidal crimes in the Gaza Strip. And yet, as I say, Ethan said that this was a selfish thing to do. It is utterly ridiculous. And their argument, by the way, for it being selfish was that, oh, it's not actually good for your career to be in the IOF. This is categorically untrue. It is a good thing. Many people who have served in parts of the IOF, such as Unit 8200, have gone on to get illustrious jobs working for companies like Google. And if you ever wanted to see how awful Ethan really is at confronting even mild criticism of him, one part of iDubbbz's video was dedicated to talking about Ethan's button, the kill switch. And what iDubbbz had to say was that Ethan should have corrected his behaviour, and Ethan did talk about this in the second podcast episode, and what he said was, oh, it saved us loads of money, and oh, you shouldn't show things to the world, we all wish we could have one. But I'm going to be honest, if I had a podcast, I don't think that I would say half the things that Ethan does, or that I would constantly need to censor myself. In fact, I've been live over and over again, and I haven't once thought, oh god, I wish I could have paused that live, because I actually care about what I'm saying. I know and understand politics, and I don't just say whatever I want because I'm not a moron. But the funniest part is that it is very clear in the first part of Ethan's video that he literally used the button in the way that iDubbbz criticised him for. He used it like a tyrant, and a few extra seconds that were available on Spotify give us just a little glimpse into how Ethan treats his employees when they dare to confront him.
Authorities block healthcare to Gaza. Again, I'm not. Do you think that I'm talking about walking around Gaza when I say how great multicultural it is?
We
did
never
you think
defended
that?
how Israel attacked Gaza since October 7th, not even once. We never
I think that's
co-signed what they did.
Is that not the point he's making though?
What?
That you're talking about how nice Israel is, but
Israel proper is different from Gaza.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Millions
right now, say
Muslims in Israel.
I guess that's where.
As you can see, AB for raising a reasonable criticism and highlighting what iDubbbz was actually trying to say about Ethan was shouted down by both Ethan and Healer, and then Ethan proceeded to hold down the button for 45 seconds, which by the way is triple the length of what it normally does, no doubt to chastise AB as he previously did at another point, and after this point AB didn't appear in the podcast, and Olivia, who also spoke up, didn't say anything else. In fact, AB seemingly didn't even return for the second podcast episode. Perhaps he was expelled by Ethan for daring to criticize him over his terrible views. And I don't think you could ever ask for a better example of why Ethan will never watch a video by someone like me, because all of my criticism is well researched. Ethan has absolutely no response to it, because he is someone who doesn't actually know anything about Israel, Palestine, or politics. This is just a guy who speaks from having lived in Israel for a bit, whose wife literally served the Israeli occupation, which he claims he opposes. Ethan acts as if people target him on the basis of anti-Semitism. But Ethan, it is not because of anti-Semitism. It is because you are unwilling to confront that you have ever done anything wrong. I mean, he tries to dismiss the Yoav Gallant thing here.
Gallant wanted to end the war. In the headlines at the time, he was in the headlines for opposing Netanyahu and wanting to end the war. That's what he was in the headlines for, and that's what we're referring to. We misspoke. It didn't sound good. We immediately corrected ourselves. You know, that's how mature people do. That's how you're supposed to handle yourself, isn't it? Like, what more do you want me to do?
I have no problem apologizing and admitting and whatever is needed when things happen.
Him and Hila give an explanation that, oh, we apologize for it and it's okay, even though Ethan did actually take to his story to defend what Hila had actually said on the podcast. And she also tried to claim that the clip of her saying "I mean" in response to hearing Rudy Giuliani talk about Palestinians being trained to kill Americans from a very young age was somehow not true. And let's here be as charitable as possible to Ethan and Hila and say, yeah, you know what, these two were just mistakes and that's okay, you definitely didn't mean them and they definitely aren't unacceptable. Well, this isn't even the half of what you two have said. As I highlighted in my previous video, Ethan has said over and over again that he is proud of what his wife did in the IOF. He says, oh, take the context out, I'm proud of it. She literally served the occupation. He said that Hamas uses and hides in hospitals and that isn't even up for debate, even though that claim is totally untrue and inaccurate and is literally facilitating Israel's genocide right now. I mean, Israel just bombed the Al Ahli Baptist Hospital. They just blew up the Turkish Cancer Hospital. They are expelling people from hospitals under this faux idea that they are Hamas bases. And this is a key facet of Israel's genocide. The destruction of healthcare infrastructure within Gaza so people cannot live there. And you, Ethan Klein, defended it. And rather than avow that, you claim that people just go on.
Do you see this? Counter-terror police assessing kneecap concert video. The Metropolitan Police said it was made aware of the video, which has been referred to Counterterrorism Internet Referral Unit for assessment. Counter-terror police are assessing a video reported to be from a concert by Irish language rappers Kneecap. A social media clip of the hip-hop trio appeared on stage to show one member of the group shout up Hamas, up Hezbollah. The footage was posted online by Danny Morris from the Jewish security charity, the Community Security Trust. He said it's from a gig last November at London's Kentish Town Forum. A Metropolitan Police spokesperson said, we've been made aware of the video and has been referred to the Counterterrorism Internet Referral Unit for assessment and to determine whether any police investigation may be required. Hamas and Hezbollah are both prescribed as terrorist groups in the UK under Section 12 of the Terrorism Act of 2000. It is an offense to express an opinion or belief that is supportive of the prescribed organization. Sky News has contacted Kneecap's management for comment. It comes after TV personality Sharon Osbourne called for Kneecap's U.S. work visas to be revoked after accusing them of making aggressive political statements, including projections of anti-Israel messages and hate speech at Coachella Music and Arts Festival. The head rabbi in England is crying to the PM to prescribe Kneecap as a terrorist group. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Oh my God, are you joking? There's no way. No, this is just, I don't know if this is real or not. Been told that the chief rabbi was on the phone to the prime minister last night demanding the Home Office prescribe rap group Kneecap and their supporters. PM was said to be reluctant to prescribe a rap group, but he would be keeping his eye on them. No, we don't know if this is real or not. No. That's crazy. Speaking of Rolling Stone, Kneecap member Mochara said in response, her rant has so many holes in it that it hardly warrants a reply, but she should listen to War Pigs that was written by Black Sabbath, led by Ozzy Osbourne, her husband. He also told the outlet, we believe we have an obligation to use our platform. We're going to raise the issue of Palestine, and it was important for us to speak out at Coachella as the U.S. is the main funder and supplier of weapons to Israel as they commit genocide in Gaza. My goats, dude. In November last year, Kneecap won a discrimination case against the UK government after former business secretary Kemi Badenoch refused them funding. Mohara is how you pronounce it. Mokhara. Dude, this is okay. Listen to me. A lot of this stuff is, once again, the final act of desperation. Okay? This is the final act of desperation. The more desperate these people get, the more desperate Israel supporters get, the harder they'll try to go after people who are outspoken. But this means that you cannot back down. Yeah, like a cornered animal lashing out. Exactly. Bro, when a shit like this ever not backfired, literally every artist who gets this kind of publicity ends up getting bigger and bigger. This was the entire story of the 1980s and 1990s. Look up NWA. Yeah. The more they do this, the more you have to push. Because notice how the administration had a firm commitment to its deportation regime until they accidentally admitted in court that one of the guys that they had actually sent to El Salvador was falsely sent to El Salvador. They admitted a mistake. That was enough for Democrats to develop the courage to go out and take a strong stance. against this action. And slowly but surely in that process, there was more media coverage surrounding this issue, and people started realizing how inhumane this stuff is. People already know how inhumane the treatment of Palestinians already is. They're already aware of it. And because so many people are aware of it, you have the current administration in the United States of America taking action that is antithetical to constitutional protections, trying to erode the First Amendment. I need you to understand that while you feel scared when you see stuff like this, authorities executing search warrants at locations in Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, and Canton, briefly detaining several people, according to the Office of Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, executing search warrants in collaboration with the state police and FBI against pro-Palestinian student activists. Okay? The group reports that at one side, officers refused to present warrants when asked. Wimler declined to disclose the investigation's focus, telling MLive, "We're not discussing the nature of the investigation at this time." I need you to understand that this is the final stance. This is the last act of desperation. This is also our last way to stop this before it's too late. This is not our moment of weakness. This is a moment where we have great strength. If we did not have great strength, armed with the truth, equipped with the knowledge of what Israel is doing, is being unconscionable. If we did not have strength here, the government wouldn't try to actively come after people that say the truth. They would just let it wither away, but they know they can't let it wither away. So they're taking this final act of desperation to try and forcibly stop people from saying the truth. That's it. So when pressure mounts like this, why waste so much energy on Ethan if it's so dire? I'm going to laser you into a goddamn spaceship. I'm going to put you in a spaceship on a one-way ticket to the moon, dude. This is not about Ethan. It never was about Ethan. This is about Hasbara, okay? Are you so stupid? Ethan makes it about Ethan. He is narcissistic, self-centered. I'm not even talking about Ethan in this moment. And you go, why aren't you talking about Ethan then? The Ann Arbor Police Department added that the investigation concerns reported crimes committed to the city of Ann Arbor as well as other jurisdictions, according to department spokesperson Chris Page. Rumor also told MLive that ICE is not involved and all subjects are believed to be U.S. citizens. Video also shared on Instagram by Students Alive for Freedom and Equality, an SJW, Students for Justice for Palestine chapter in Ann Arbor, Michigan, purpose to show the raid at a house of a pro-Palestine University of Michigan activist. This is what they did.
No search warrant was provided.
Show me your hands out. Hands up.
I'm a Pepega, but I don't see how pro-Palestinian protesters getting raided by the FBI means we're winning. The reason why they're taking such strong enforcement action to silence the truth is because it has reached a level where the average American citizen is not of two minds on this. This is an act of desperation from the federal government. That is my point. There were people like me, myself included, that have been saying these things for the past 10 years. There was never this level of public persecution and even prosecution because they could nip that shit in the bud before it actually breached containment. This is the panicked last bastion effort of an administration that recognizes that this ideological battle has been lost. And what they fail to comprehend is that this kind of violence, this kind of state violence will inevitably create more resistance. That's it. So in this moment, instead of feeling fear of government prosecution, we should be confident in our voice. Okay? We should double down. This is the moment to double down because I fear that if this admin gets its wishes and actively silences those who speak out against Israel's atrocities, then it's over. This isn't just about Israel. Although it is at the heart of the story, it's not just about Israel at all. This is about opening the door to a fully fascist government that is already attempting to change the legal confines in which they operate by undermining the First Amendment, by undermining due process. Yesterday, it was students on student visas and those with green cards. Today, it's American citizens. So when you fight this battle, remember, it's not just for those who are being slain in Gaza. You're fighting this battle for everyone in America, perhaps maybe all around the world. That's how much power the American government has. So keep that in mind. Recalling the wholly fake anti-Semitism smear of Representative Rashida by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash when Tlaib suggested Nessel was treating pro-Palestine protesters unfairly. Yeah. You cannot make this shit up. Pro-Israel groups at Yale are inviting far-right convicted terrorist Itamar Ben-Gvir to campus, who just yesterday said Israel should bomb food and aid depots in Gaza, and Yale is punishing the student group that dared to protest his visit. Yes, and they're not only punishing them, they're libeling them as racist using secret, unseen evidence. And the guy being protested routinely chants death to Arabs and was convicted in Israel of racist incitement. Up is down, black is white, nothing matters anymore. The more extreme the response from the government, the more it brings it closer to home for normies and forces them to look at the reality of the situation, that they can't stay silent because they can't ignore it anymore. Basically that, right? That's my hope. That's my hope. But here's what I also think, though. Without actually those in positions of power, like the Democratic Party, making a big fuss about these issues and redirecting the media attention to these kinds of insane First Amendment enforcements, okay? These unconstitutional and unconscionable anti-First Amendment decisions being made by the federal government, they have to be put an end to. They have to stop. And if the Democratic leadership doesn't actually speak out on this and then hyper-focus the media's attention on these matters, most Americans are going to go about their days completely oblivious to the actions of the administration and only recognize it when that violence comes down their doorstep. There's already great instability within the American economy. The opportunity for the Democrats to make a big fuss about this is right now.
After you because of anti-Semitism, that all you do is show sympathy for Israelis. It is so ridiculous and utterly pathetic. Even the clip which AB was responding to shows the problem with you, because what Ethan said was that it is okay to go to Israel proper, which refers to Israel that is not the occupied territories of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza Strip and Golan Heights, but actually just Israel proper, which refers to the 48 borders of Israel. And he says, well, I think there's an apartheid in all these other places. I think that there's a genocide and all these horrifying things going on. But I think that Israel proper is an inspiring example of coexistence.
It's not weird. They live together, you know. In the West Bank and in Gaza, it's a completely different story, which I say. But I think it's inspiring that you see that it's possible. It is possible for Arabs and Muslims and Jews to live together in harmony, and they do in Israel proper.
But Ethan, to say that you think that there is apartheid in the West Bank and Gaza, you also forgot East Jerusalem, which is also illegally occupied by Israel, by the way, Mr. Historian, Mr. Expert. But if you genuinely think that, what you are saying here is like saying, well, South Africa proper is a shining example of coexistence because most of the oppression and racism is kept to the Bantustans. But Ethan, where do you think the people instituting the apartheid system are from? They live in Israel proper. Where do you...
I mean, his wife literally raided the West Bank. Like, that is just the truth. And normally I wouldn't hold that against someone if that person's current opinion on the Israeli apartheid was that was similar to mine, where they consider it to be unconscionable and a war crime. But if you're in the process of still continuing to defend Israel like this, then what are we talking about?
You think the government who decrees, yeah, we're going to do these things in the Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem is from Israel proper. They themselves literally believe that the West Bank is part of Israel. It's why they call it Judea and Samaria. It's a religiously motivated, fanatical dream that they deserve all of historical Palestine. And they are administering apartheid there. So for all intents and purposes, this is part of Israel proper. You can't just dismiss it and say, well, I like it there. It is, as I say, like saying you liked South Africa whilst it was an apartheid state because they did most of the bad things on the Bantustans. Every single year, there is a Death to Arabs march in Jerusalem. Tens of thousands of Israelis, including government officials by the way, congregate in the streets to march through the Arab section, chanting death to Arabs, may your village burn, smashing up Palestinian shops and attacking Palestinian shop owners. And that to you is a shining example of coexistence where you want to take your kids. I am sorry, Ethan. The vast majority of Israelis support the genocide in the Gaza Strip. The vast majority of Israelis support Israel's plan to expel 2 million Palestinians. You cannot reconcile and pretend, yeah, all the bad things just happen in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. No, Ethan, this is what Israel proper looks like.
Again, and this is what I'm saying. They're acting like Israel proper, which there's 2 million Palestinians living there in Israel with full rights. People just lie about the conditions there. They say that like Israel or Palestinians are second-class citizens in Israel, and or that like there's Jim Crow.
You go to universities. There are so many Muslim students, hospitals, Muslim doctors. It's like it's not what people portray
judges,
as.
Governments.
They are in the government.
But even then, this claim by Ethan and Healer that Israel proper is not some kind of apartheid state because, you know, they lived beside Arabs, there are Arabs in the government, is so funny. And I really just want to talk about this Arabs in the government thing. Because this is something Zionists always do. They always go, well, there's Arabs in the government. But they never actually know what these Arabs in government are saying. Because in 2018, Israel passed the nation-state law. And this is one of the reasons that you could never call Israel a shining example of coexistence, an inspiring example of coexistence, as Ethan puts it. Because this law said that settlement of Palestinian land was a national value, that only Jewish people were allowed to exercise self-determination, and also relegated Arabic to a language of special status but no longer an official language. And the reason that I bring up Arab members of the Israeli Knesset is because Ayman Odeh, the leader of the Arab opposition party, literally referred to this as a law which relegates Palestinians to being second-class citizens. So how dare you sit there and use this as some kind of example of, yeah, actually there's brilliant coexistence because they have politicians, when these people are literally criticizing it as a Jewish supremacist nation. You are so ridiculous. And this is what I mean when you can't avow that you've ever done anything wrong, that you have to sit there and pretend that it's, you know, minimal things, that it's only a couple of things. No, Ethan, it is a long pattern of spreading Israeli talking points to justify Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people. And on this topic of Jim Crow policies in Israel, here's a former American politician, Dov Zakheim, talking about how Israel's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich in 2023 tried to implement laws which he did successfully that were very similar to Jim Crow era, that targeted Palestinians, cut funding for their neighborhoods, which are already underfunded in Israel, by the way. And yet you just sit here and act as if it's only mega lefties that say this. Again, this guy worked for the US government. And then there are so many other laws within Israel proper that clearly just discriminate against Palestinians on the basis of their race. For example, there are family unification laws which are only applied to Palestinians. So if a Palestinian who lives in Israel proper marries a Palestinian who lives in the Gaza Strip or West Bank, Israel literally has a law since 2003 which has banned over and over again those families from reuniting inside Israel proper, and often inside even the occupied territories. And the reason Israel does this is so they can expel Palestinians without having to do it, because if you really want to be with your partner, what are you going to do? You'll leave the country and Israel will never allow you to come back. And then you also have the very different ways in which Palestinians are surveilled in comparison to Israelis. Because when it comes to Palestinians, they can get arrested for social media posts showing solidarity with the people of Gaza. They could be arrested for, you know, supporting Hamas. They could be thrown in jail for years, tortured, without trial, and so many other things. But when it comes to Israelis, well, you can appear on television and violate the UN Convention on Genocide Prevention, calling for all Palestinians to be wiped out, calling for them to be expelled, and that's just fine, you know, you won't be arrested as you should be under the UN Convention. No, you might be given a new job, you might be promoted. Maybe Netanyahu will let you go carry out the genocide. And so do you not see that Palestinians cannot express dissent, whereas Israelis can? They're affected by different laws, and yet you still sit there and call it a shining example of coexistence. Ethan, just because you lived there and lived alongside Palestinians, that did not mean that they lived equally. They cannot express full solidarity with the suffering Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, or any of these places, whereas Israelis can call for genocide. You are so ridiculous. As the 2018 nation-state law enshrines, these people have to say that, yeah, settlement of our land in the West Bank, well, that's just our national value, you know. We can't exercise self-determination here. That's only for the Jewish people, because it's this wonderful space of coexistence, you know. Now, as another means to avoid any questions about Ethan's actual ideology, he tried to make it seem as if all of the criticism against him was anti-Semitic. He claimed that Hasan had a swastika sword in his house, which him and his other crew members were endorsing, even though it was just a sword from a character in an anime. And he also tried to claim that iDubbbz was being anti-Semitic and engaging in Holocaust denial by talking about Israel's cultural appropriation of Palestinian food to try and make the Zionist project seem more Middle Eastern.
Dude, it's like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It is so desperate. And the very fact that there are people who don't see this as an act of desperation, the very fact that there is not more than like 10 people max that look at this and go, dude, this is, what are you talking about? It blows my mind, dude. Truly mind-boggling. I've spent my entire career combating anti-Semitism and combating Nazis. When Ethan Klein was cozying up to the likes of Jordan B. Peterson, who has done a ton of very weird and somewhat subtle neo-Nazi propaganda, talking about the fears of cultural Marxism, you know, Judeo-Bolshevism, which is the new version of Judeo-Bolshevism. I was in the trenches getting doxxed and swatted by Nazis, and this has the audacity to say I'm a Nazi while he is literally defending the live streamed Holocaust, dude. That's crazy.
He's also doing, like, once again, like almost a form of Holocaust denialism, which is basically like diaspora apologia, basically saying that hummus is not Jewish food.
Even Dan doesn't understand what he's saying.
He says there's no Arab distributors. Of
I don't
course
think that's
bad.
Holocaust denial.
No, but no, I'm correcting myself because I think it's close. When you deny like the Jewish the way that all 900,000 Jews were displaced.
Yeah, from other countries in the Middle East. I get that.
Denying
that is not. I can't believe he's still going on with this, where he's saying like 900,000 Jews were displaced. 900,000 Jews were displaced from Arab nations. This wasn't like separate countries, okay, going through the motions of pan-Arabic nationalism across the board in their own unique ways, especially purposely egged on by the Israeli state to fulfill the Zionist project, the ultimate desire of populating Israel with as many Jews from all around the world as fast as possible. People volunteering to go to Israel is not the same as people being forced out of their ancestral homes with no way of return. People volunteering to go to Israel and then not wanting to go back to Iraq or not wanting to go back to any of these other countries is very different. Palestinians still cannot go to Israel. Palestinians cannot go and visit their grandparents' homes. But you can be a Jewish person anywhere around the planet right now and get a house in the West Bank. Get a Palestinian's house in the West Bank, as a matter of fact. How is that appropriate? How is that normal? It's not. It's not normal at all. It's fascism.
that is, in my opinion, a form of like Holocaust.
But the Holocaust is a specific thing that happened in Europe. Like you can just.
It's a way.
I think you need to
it's
frame
historic,
it differently.
It's anti-Semitic historical revisionism. How about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this is
saying hummus is not Israeli food. Israeli cuisine is just like made up because the Israeli state is made up. is so it's akin to anti-Semitic revisionism.
Absolutely ridiculous. And Ethan loves to talk about the expulsion, the flight of Jewish people from the Middle Eastern countries. I mean, he never contextualizes it with, well, a lot of this was to do with the founding of the state of Israel.
I mean, yeah, all states are made up. I know. It's just not, many of them aren't made up as recently as 1948, with the exception of like South Sudan, okay?
Degrading relationships between the two, and also the fact that why did Mizrahi Jewish people only start coming after the Second World War? Why weren't they welcomed really at any point before that? Because the only point they had been, some Yemeni Jewish people were brought on in very early. They were treated with horrific racism, even with spiritualist left-wing Zionists like Ahad Ham, Asher Ginsburg. You can literally read what he...
Yemenite immigration affects the nature of the Zionist settlement by dint of their different culture and mentality. The racism that Yemeni Jews faced and the racism that Arab Jews faced from the region when they first came to Israel was crazy. This is part of the reason why many Arab Jews then became some of the most rabid ultra-Zionists out there through that process. That's how Itamar Ben-Gvir became the demon that he is.
He thought about Yemeni Jewish people here. Or you could read this quote from...
The Moroccan Jew took a lot from the Moroccan Arabs. The culture of Morocco, I would not like to have here. And I don't see what the contribution present Persians have to make. We do not want Israelis to become Arabs. We are in duty bound to fight against the spirit of the Levant, which corrupts individuals and societies, and preserve the authentic Jewish values as they crystallize in the evidently European diaspora.
From David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister in the 1960s, when he said, "The Moroccan Jew took a lot from the Moroccan Arab. The culture of Morocco I would not like to have here, and I don't see what contribution present Persians have to make. We do not want Israelis to become Arabs. We are in duty bound to fight against the spirit of the Levant, which corrupts individuals and societies and preserve the authentic Jewish values as they crystallized in the diaspora." And this fits perfectly with what the Zionist project did. They only brought Mizrahi people over after the Holocaust because Europe was closed off to Jewish immigration. And when they welcomed them over, they treated them horribly. There are so many examples of this, like the Yemeni baby affair, where Yemeni children were stolen from Jewish parents, and then the parents were told that the children had died, even though they had not died, and they'd actually been given to Ashkenazi couples. And the people who fought against this, like Uzi Meshulam, a Yemeni rabbi, was treated like an evil conspiracy theorist, even though he was proved right, and Israel apologized only a few years ago. And I'd also like to highlight this quote from a senior Israeli politician, which discusses Israel's motivation in evacuating Jewish people from the Arab countries. And it says that the need was not the need to rescue them, but the need to create a Hebrew majority in Eretz Yisrael. And there you have it. Ethan, you speak about this as if it was some uniform expulsion that came out of nowhere, that it is somehow akin to the Holocaust, that it is revision of Jewish history to talk about, yeah, Israel didn't actually want this culture and has only recently embraced it as a means to try and demonstrate that it is not a settler colonial nation, because people like you think that colonizers can only be white. But in reality, the expulsion and the existence of Mizrahi people within Israel is very complex. You could actually read people like Ella Shohat, herself an Iraqi Jewish person, talking about this, or you could just carry on listening to Israeli state propaganda. And this would be the key point, Ethan. Of course, Mizrahi Jewish people participated in Arab culture. They lived and existed within that environment for hundreds of years. But Israel appropriates their culture and uses it as a means to make themselves seem more Middle Eastern, even though it is a settler colonial project that, as its early leaders put it, was a means to extend Europe into the Middle East. It wasn't just Herzl. Max Nordau said exactly the same things. So when you sit there and go, well, it's anti-Semitic Holocaust revisionism to talk about this, it's just utterly ridiculous. And also, Ethan justified supporting Israel by claiming that 80% of Israeli Jews had nowhere else to go. I mean, what that means, I don't know. But it's important to note here that many people who actually work in the One Democratic State campaign, yes, not just saying one democratic state, people who actually are working towards this, discuss how how this future will include all Israelis and Palestinians, the right of return for Palestinians will be implemented, but not with mass expulsion of Jewish people who actually live in historic Palestine. However, at the same time, I would like to read a quote from the Israeli historian Tom Segev. Segev recently wrote, "At the age of 80, I'm starting to think that maybe it wasn't right from the outset, the whole Zionist thing. Most Israelis are refugees or the offspring of refugees, not Zionists but refugees. So you'll say, well, that justifies Zionism because this was a land they were able to come to. But we need to remember that the majority of the Holocaust survivors did not come to live in Israel, and that the majority of Jews in the world are not coming to Israel. They can, but they don't want to live in this country. So Zionism is not such a great success story. It also doesn't provide security to Jews. It's safer for Jews to live outside Israel." And Ethan, you proved this in your video. You say that you've had to cancel your trip to Israel because you don't want your children to be exposed to potentially rocket sirens or something else happening inside Israel.
A peace
We put
or
the-
deal or
yeah.
something to go into effect.
Yeah, we put the visit off while the war is
Because we want
happening.
to come with the kids and
I don't want them to have to deal with sirens and
yeah.
seeing all that shit, hearing all that shit, you know?
Oh.
But that's just not going to happen to them inside America. You and your children are incredibly safe. You are not going to be subjected to violence because although America is a settler colony, it doesn't have an open frontier of settlement right now. And as many of the most
All of the Arab nations that expel Jews have offered them the right to return since the 90s, something Israel refused to do with the Palestinians. Yeah, of course they will never do that.
eminent historians who discuss the concept of the frontier have noted, any time frontiers expand, it provokes violence. And so as long as Israel keeps on expanding into Palestinian land, it is always going to be met with violence. It is never going to be this safe and wonderful project as you try and make out. It is a complete and utter failure. And your desire to cling to the state of Israel and act as if it is wonderful, a beacon of coexistence, is frankly ridiculous. It is a state that was begun with the expulsion of 750,000 people, the instant removal, lightning quick, of 750,000 people. Israeli settlers literally moved into Palestinian homes. They took pot.
Yeah, remember he was worried about his children hearing sirens, despite, Israel has to exist, otherwise no Jew is safe, which is inherently stupid. But also the very same couple that you're seeing on screen has for months made jokes about, like, Hasan, why don't you go to Gaza? You're too scared to go to Gaza. Over and over again.
Pots, pans, photo albums, everything that you could possibly imagine from people's homes. So Ethan, anyone who is genuinely committed to Palestinian liberation is of course against anti-Semitism. None of us support the extermination of Jewish people on the basis of their race. This is the whole basis of the rejection of Zionism. We reject the Zionist project because it is an ethno-supremacist project which has justified the extermination of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and the expulsion and destruction of the lives of millions more. Israel now heads towards expelling 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. It is increasingly looking like it will probably end up doing something similar in the West Bank and East Jerusalem in the near future, and perhaps one day it will try and do it inside Israel proper as well. So why you cling to this state is beyond me. You cannot sit there and say, well, most Jews are Zionists and that makes it okay.
I can tell you. I know what it is. It's, some will say, oh, it's propaganda. Some will say it's his wife. Some will say this and that. But I think the truth is way more childish. The truth is even sillier. It's because he feels wronged. It's because of his ego. That's it. It's a sunk cost at this point. He has dumped way too much into one direction in this conversation. And maybe the starting point was a little bit of propaganda, but I'm telling you, there is just no way that he can self-reflect and change trajectory. That is the major reason. It's narcissism and selfishness. I could not comprehend how for months, when I wasn't even talking about Ethan, when he would just like chirp on and on and on about all of these pro-Palestinian content creators, myself included, I could not understand how someone could be so openly selfish. He could say the same about you. Dog, I didn't know who the Ethan Klein was, and I was talking about the Palestinian emancipatory movement. What the are you talking about? He could say the same thing about you. What do you mean he can say the same thing about you? No, he can't. The amount of times I've covered Ethan Klein on this broadcast is marginal in comparison to the hours and hours and hours of time and effort that he has poured into not just me, but every pro-Palestine content creator. I ironically only talk about Ethan. I only talk about Ethan from the framework of him doing Hasbara. As in, he could say you're projecting. Yeah, he'd be wrong, though, in that instance, don't you think? Do you not have the capacity to understand how different these two circumstances are? I tweeted about this last night as well. Ethan has the audacity to claim that I've been attacking him from the jump when I was so goddamn charitable for an entire year, not knowing that he was like making fun of Aaron Bushnell, making ridiculous statements in defense of Israel, while simultaneously still trying to hold on to the aesthetics of being pro-Palestine, using that as a shield to brainwash an audience of parasocial fans into assuming this like totally contradictory position where they're pro-Palestine, but only within the neat little confines that Ethan Klein has created, where everyone who's outspoken about Palestinian emancipation, every group that is resisting against Israel is in the wrong. Only Ethan is the one true pro-Palestinian voice. And he happens to think that the only Palestinians that you can hear from, that he calls Gazans, by the way, are the group of people that were like, we're done, enough with this war, we don't like Hamas. That was the only time he's ever spoken about the Palestinians since we had a podcast. Brother, you are still giving the benefit of the doubt now? Wait, what? I'm not. I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what his intentions are. What matters is his output, okay? And his output is being pro-Israel in a very nefarious way. But I think the reason why he will never self-reflect on this is because he's dug in his heels. He is dug in far too deep. Yesterday, he posted an Instagram story, once again, in the most cowardly way possible, because he doesn't want to hear from anybody that can push back at all. And he added, or he demanded his audience reach out to Hen Mazig, okay? Hen Mazig is a Hasbarist, like self-declared. It's not like a secret, okay? His entire point, Hen Mazig's entire goal is to defend Israel in the Western world. He tweeted at him after he had tweeted about Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein is a creator who is deeply critical of Israel's actions, but because he thinks Israel should exist and points out anti-Semitism in the Free Palestine movement, people have wrongfully flooded CPS with calls that he's abusing his children, and even sent human skulls to his home to make sure the CPS visit went poorly. If this is how you react, even the slightest criticism, you are not on the right side of history. This is precisely what's happening, and Hasan's propaganda has been so effective, he's managed to convince most of the left of him a radical Zionist with zero evidence. Hen Mazig, I can't tag. Someone sent him the new EK video about their blatant dog whistle with the swastika. Dog, you're tagging Hen Mazig, okay? You complain about me platforming Bad Empanada. You're tagging Zen Mazik. You're literally operating like Canary Mission, and while simultaneously being like, I'm pro-Palestine. It's insane, but his audience is too stupid to know that. I said I defended this dude for a year, not knowing he was making fun of Aaron Bushnell and doing Hasbara. Then he tried to deplatform me and other pro-Palestinian content creators. He worked with the ADL to make Zionists a protected class on Twitch, a narcissistic crybully making the genocide about himself, which is the best thing you can explain. I could be misunderstanding what this means, but I think you're part of the same company. What? Could it possibly be an issue that is addressed and resolved internally? What is this? The same company? What? What does this even mean? What? He responded to by calling you a Nazi so brain broken is depressing.
That 90% of Jewish people are Zionists isn't even correct. But if it were, it wouldn't change anything. I'm sure that many white people supported apartheid. I'm sure that many white people didn't see a problem with colonialism. But we do now. We have grown and we have changed. And I see Zionism for what it is. It was always a movement premised on the fact that the Palestinian people who made up the vast majority of...
Yeah, this is the guy he added. When considering numbers related to Gaza, keep in mind, these figures come from the Gazan Health Ministry, which is controlled by Hamas. Hamas classifies every casualty on their side as civilian. Hamas has claimed they lost hostage and took months to identify them. Yet when Israel strikes Hamas officials, they somehow identify all the deceased and their ages within seconds. A journalist or doctor who assists Hamas in holding hostages is no longer a journalist or doctor, they're a terrorist. Hamas presents civilian casualties as mostly women and children to generate sensational headlines, just as outlets like BBC amplify. Hamas lies to make the world hate Israel. They don't care about the truth, only their goals. Hamas doesn't have to lie to make the world hate Israel. Israel does that all on its own because every single defender of Israel is the most insane, baby murder loving, bloodthirsty, arrogant, entitled freak of all time. And sometimes really ugly too, like Rabbi Shmuley, or directly linked to Jeffrey Epstein, like Alan Dershowitz. Not exactly the best guys out there defending Israel. Perhaps that's part of the reason. Or maybe it's because despite Israel's best attempts, people still are able to live stream their own Holocaust, their own demise, and people that catch wind of that in spite of the mainstream outlets routinely trying to contextualize these atrocities, people that see the live streamed child Holocaust go, oh my God, that is unconscionable. To think that there is, in the United States of America, to think that there is any kind of resentment towards Israel is crazy to me. I never would have thought that I would see the day. This is the country that did the war on terror. This is the country that backed the war on terror by doing unlimited amounts of Islamophobic propaganda from every orifice of media. This is a country where Israel is presented as the most moral ally, the most important democracy in the region for years in perpetuity. This is the country where some of the most reputable media outlets have basically dropped any pretense that they are unbiased in their journalism when it comes to Israel and Gaza. And yet, in spite of all of that, 53% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Israel. That is crazy. If the media actually covered what Israel does in the way that they would cover what Russia is doing to Ukraine, Americans would be joining Hamas. Okay, they would literally offer material support to Hamas in the way that they did to the IRA. Okay, Jesus Christ, what are we talking about? And then they still go, it's the whole world hates Israel because Hamas lies and puts babies in front of our missiles. It's like, don't throw missiles there then. Yeah. What actually happened? Israel eliminated Hamas terrorists in Gaza who were planning an attack. The BBC, 8 workers killed in Israeli airstrike. Are we even surprised? Here he is, defending the aid workers that Israel killed in an airstrike. They claim Gaza is on the brink of famine, but also report booming desert shops and shawarma stands. They blame Israel for lack of aid, but also refuse to honestly report how Hamas steals the aid and resells the Gazans at exorbitant prices. Which one is it, New York Times? Like, this is the guy who, Ethan, who is pro-Palestine, this is the guy who he's calling on. A fellow at the Tel Aviv Institute. The future of combating hate. We uplift Jews and other marginalized groups off and online through innovative social media-driven strategies. Hashtag Jews Talk Justice. Literally an institution that is dedicated to doing Hasbara. This guy is such a rabid ultra-Zionist. He thinks the New York Times is not sufficiently pro-Israel. Hamas's refusal to release them keeps this war going. If they truly cared about human rights, they would be demanding, they'd protest Hamas. Free Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, end the genocide. Doctors from all around the world. Another crazy post from Hen. What's the difference between a cow and the Nakba? You can't milk a cow for over 66 years. I'm not going to even say nothing, but this is just straightforward Nazi shit, okay? Actually, I am going to say it. This is straightforward Nazi shit. This is literally what the Nazis say about the Holocaust. How are you, a Jewish man, so oblivious to what you are doing in this situation? Because the Nakba did happen, just like the Holocaust did happen. And just like Nazis say, oh, you're milking the Holocaust to disparage Jews all around the world, you as a Jewish man are disparaging the Palestinians. Ironically enough, while the Holocaust is ongoing this time. That's the guy. That's the guy that Ethan called on to get help from. And then he still says he's pro-Palestine. I'm sorry, dude. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably Hasbara duck, okay? It's a duck that's doing Hasbara. This has got to be a Holocaust denial joke that they just put the Nakba into. Exactly. It's the same shit. That's why so many of Israel's greatest defenders come across like neo-Nazis the moment that you recognize that the people that they're talking about are human, okay? If you don't think Palestinians are human, you don't understand what they're doing here. But if you do think Palestinians are human, God forbid, okay? Humans that have dreams, lives, that want to live free, see the world, you know, enjoy the sun without constant fear that this apartheid regime is going to come and kill every one of their family members and them too, okay? The moment that you recognize that Palestinians are human, all of this falls apart. So you have to do a steady diet of dehumanization all the time, a steady diet of justifying all of the atrocities that are happening to the Palestinians by saying Hamas, October 7, Hamas, October 7, Hamas, October 7. 76 years at this point of occupation, and they're talking about Hamas, October 7. Oh, this is the problem. The problem is many people do see Palestinians as human beings, okay? So they recognize what these guys are doing, just like we see Jewish people as victims of the Holocaust because they were human beings. We don't adopt the Nazi framing on the matter, okay? We also see Palestinians as human beings that are victim to the Israeli genocide. It's crazy.
The inhabitants of that land did not have a right because they were further from the proximity to Europeans. I mean, as I noted in a previous video, it's what Arthur Balfour said. He said that he didn't care what the 700,000 Palestinians wanted, even though they were the majority. What mattered to him was what Jewish people who did not live in that land wanted. And this is why I have to question what point there is in supporting Israel. There will always be Jewish people who exist there. Ethan tries to dismiss the idea that Israel is a state which says that it represents all Jewish people. He says, I don't think Israel have ever said that. Netanyahu categorically has said that at certain points. He said it whilst he was in Paris in 2015. He said that he was the representative of all Jewish people there. Israel refers to itself as a Jewish state. They talk about policies of Judaizing, where they move Jewish people into the land. They say that Jewish settlement is a national value. They welcome every single Jewish person from all across the world, even if they don't have links to the land of Palestine. You yourself, Ethan, could go there and settle there, even though your ancestors didn't live there, because it is a state for Jewish people. So this idea that Israel somehow has never said that it is a Jewish state, when it uses the Star of David, a Jewish symbol, as its flag, as it has over and over again talked about how it has revitalized the Jewish people, is farcical. I mean, I don't even understand why you are doing this at this point, Ethan. Why are you saying these things? Ultimately, it is not the state of Israel which matters. States do not have innate rights to exist. They are creations of the human mind. There have always...
Ethan wants to be a settler.
We should
out of
move to
spite.
Israel to spite them.
Yeah, let's go back so that we can actually be.
And I'm gonna have a bunch of kids.
For them to talk about.
I'm gonna move back to Israel and have 10 kids. Right, Hila?
I mean, he's joking, but it's just like, it's still gross. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move to Nazi Germany out of spite is like a completely unacceptable thing to say in the 30s leading up to the 40s, you know? But again, he gets to make jokes like this because he doesn't think the genocide is a serious matter. To him, it's just about winning back an audience by constantly presenting himself as the victim and crying and whining over and over and over again. You know who the biggest victim of this genocide is? Not the Palestinian children that are getting shredded. Me. I'm the biggest victim in my Bel Air mansion. I'm the biggest victim as a 100 millionaire. I'm the biggest victim. Why? Because I can't even tune out all of the goddamn noise for a year. I'm the biggest victim who's going to constantly cry over and over and over again. Me, 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 me. It shocks me. It genuinely... Are you talking about yourself? No, dumb. As a matter of fact, I've consistently repeated over and over again that in spite of losing a third of my audience after October 7 because of my unconditional support for the Palestinian emancipatory movement, I routinely repeated that that is nothing. Okay, that is nothing. The material, the material harm or the mass harassment campaigns that I was subjected to is nothing. It's nothing in comparison to what the Palestinian people are experiencing on a daily basis. You had 90K viewers? No, after October 7, before, before the election and after October 7, I from 30K average to 20K average viewers. What? Didn't you lose it after Bernie Sanders? What? Yeah, the only difference why that changed is because a lot of people's attitude shifted after a while. They started seeing what I was saying. Yeah, they realized, oh my God, this was right all along, actually. Sorry.
always been Jewish people living in historic Palestine. However, this amount was small until the Zionist project came with the explicit goal of settling Palestinian land and establishing a settler colony there that would not include the Palestinian indigenous society. And Israel, throughout its entire history, has moved closer and closer to the erasure of Palestinian culture in that land. So Ethan, don't bother clinging to the state. Israel is not some wonderful guarantee that all Jewish people will be safe. There's actually a fantastic article by an Israeli called Boaz Evron written in the 1980s where he talks about how this idea that it is the state which will protect Jewish people is farcical because millions of other people were slaughtered during the Holocaust who had actual states. Polish people, people from Russia, the Soviet Union, people were slaughtered regardless of being protected by an army. What mattered to Evron was the goal of moving towards stamping out the kind of ideologies that led to Nazism, the kind of justifications for subjugating others. And unfortunately, this is all the Zionist project is. From its very inception, it has always been premised on the fact that the indigenous Palestinian society was not deserving of the land. And thus, in order to move forward, you must abandon Zionism.
This is the most demented lie he tells, in my opinion, that you and pro-Palestine people want every Israeli killed, or even worse than that, that the pro-Palestinian movement wants all Palestinians to be killed, and that Ethan Klein, by constantly crying about pro-Palestinian content creators, is actually doing a better job of defending Palestinians somehow in his own sick, twisted mind than all of the people that he's actively trying to deplatform. It is unconscionable. It is so gross. It is so insane. And there was a chatter in here that pointed something out that I think is important to remember. Okay? He said, Israel supporters make it seem like the pro-Palestinian movement had motion, like a lot of support in the Western world. That's not the case. Only recently has that become the case, in spite of all odds, in spite of the deck being stacked against it. And it's only because of Israel's depravity. Israel's live-streamed Holocaust has made it utterly unconscionable, impossible to defend. That's it. That's the only reason. If Israel did another, siege, as they have done time and time again, and killed like 2,000, 3,000 people, and then scaled back the atrocities after, this would not even be a matter of public debate. Okay? But they never stopped, and they still haven't stopped. And that's precisely why people go, oh my God, what the is going on? Israel is its own worst enemy. That's precisely the reason why they say some of the most insane shit you've ever heard. They'll be like, oh, Palestinians are putting babies in front of the rockets. It's like, dude, you're rocketing a majority children population that you have kept inside of this open air prison. What the do you mean they're the ones who are putting the babies in front of the bombs?